There are seasons when our prayers seem to echo back to us from empty air, when we cry out to God and hear only the sound of our own voice breaking in the silence, when heaven feels sealed shut and we wonder if we've been forgotten entirely. If you're in that place right now, where God's silence has become louder than any noise around you, I want you to know that you're not alone in this feeling. Even the most faithful hearts have walked through valleys where God's presence felt absent, where his voice seemed impossibly distant. The silence doesn't mean you've been abandoned. It doesn't mean your faith is failing or that you've done something wrong. Sometimes, in our deepest pain, we encounter the same cry that came from the cross itself. Listen to these words from Psalm 22, verses 1 and 2. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring? O my God, I cry in the daytime, but thou hearest not, and in the night season, and am not silent. These words were penned by David, a man after God's own heart, yet here he is crying out in what feels like abandonment. And incredibly, these same words would later be spoken by Jesus himself on the cross. Think about that for a moment. Even the Son of God experienced this feeling of divine silence in his darkest hour. This tells us something profound about the nature of faith and suffering. God doesn't promise us that we'll always feel his presence. He doesn't guarantee that our prayers will always be answered with immediate clarity, or that his voice will always be audible to our hearts. But what he does promise is his faithfulness, even when we cannot sense it. The psalmist says he cries both day and night and feels unheard. Maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you've been praying for healing, for breakthrough, for just a sign that God remembers you exist. The silence might feel like rejection, like you're talking to a God who has turned his back. But notice something beautiful in this passage. David is still praying. Even in his complaint, even in his confusion, he's still calling out, my God. He hasn't stopped believing. He's bringing his raw, honest pain directly to the one he feels has abandoned him. This is what faith looks like in the wilderness. It's not the absence of doubt or pain. It's the decision to keep crying out, even when the silence feels deafening. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in the quiet spaces, in the waiting, in the seasons when we can't see or feel what he's doing. His silence isn't his absence. His seeming distance isn't his disinterest. Often, he's working in ways that our hearts aren't ready to perceive yet. When a gardener plants a seed, there's a long season of silence beneath the soil. No growth is visible. No progress seems to be happening. But beneath the surface, in the darkness and quiet, roots are growing deeper, gathering strength for the breakthrough that's coming. Your season of silence might be God's way of growing something deeper in you, something that can only develop in the quiet, something that will sustain you through whatever lies ahead. If you're walking through a season of God's silence right now, please know that you're held even when you don't feel it. Your prayers are heard even when they seem to disappear into empty air. Keep crying out, keep bringing your honest heart before him, just as David did. And remember that even Jesus himself walked through this valley. You're not forgotten. You're not abandoned. Sometimes the deepest faith is found not in feeling God's presence, but in continuing to seek him even when he seems silent. Subscribe for daily reminders of God's promises, especially for those difficult seasons when his voice seems quiet. You don't have to walk through this alone.